Imagine an empire that everyone believes is doomed. An empire diminished, besieged, aged, but one that suddenly decides to strike one last dazzling blow. The year is 533. Emperor Justinian has only one idea in mind: to restore the glory of Rome. He calls this audacious project the Renovatio Imperii, the rebirth of the Roman Empire. With the brilliance of his military genius, Belisarius, and the determination of a court where intrigue and faith intertwine, Justinian launches a series of wars that will shake the Mediterranean world. In just 20 years, Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain fall once again under Byzantine control.
But behind the victories, a terrible price was hidden. Millions of deaths, ruins, and immense sacrifices. Was this truly a renaissance or a tragic illusion? That is what we are about to uncover in this video.
To understand how we got here, we must go back to the source. In 476, the Western Roman Empire collapses. The last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, a powerless teenager, is deposed by Odoacer, a barbarian chief in Rome's service. The event marks the official end of an empire that had been dying for decades. The economy is in tatters, cities are emptying, and the legions are no longer Roman. They're made up of Germanic mercenaries. Italy falls to the Ostrogoths. North Africa belongs to the Vandals. Spain is dominated by the Visigoths. But in the east, the Eastern Roman Empire still stands. Its heart beats in Constantinople, the city of 1,000 domes straddling two worlds. In 527, Justinian, the son of an Illyrian peasant raised at court by his uncle Justin, ascends to the imperial throne. Short, rigid, devout, obsessed with order and Rome's past glory. He's not a warrior but a tireless politician, a workhorse who sometimes dictates laws word for word. He dreams of one thing: restoring the Roman Empire in its entirety, reconquering Italy, Africa, Spain, making the Mediterranean a Roman lake again. But in 532, his throne wavers. The coffers are empty. The countryside has been ravaged by years of war against the Persians. The population chokes under heavy taxes. And above all, Constantinople is on the brink of insurrection. Two rival factions, the Blues and the Greens, originally chariot race supporters, have morphed into violent political parties. In January, both unite against Justinian, enraged by his tax reforms and repression. Riots erupt. For days, Constantinople burns. This is the Nika Revolt. The emperor nearly flees, but spurred by his wife, Theodora, he decides to stay. He strikes back, crushing the revolt in the Hippodrome. The toll, nearly 30,000 dead. The city is drenched in blood, but his power is secure. Soon after, Justinian goes on the offensive. He launches a vast reconstruction campaign. The Hagia Sophia Basilica rises from the ground in just 5 years. He rewrites the empire's laws, the Corpus Juris Civilis, modernizes the administration, and reorganizes finances. But above all, he prepares an ambitious move: reconquest. A daring, costly, risky dream. Yet he has a trump card: Flavius Belisarius, one of the greatest generals in Roman history. Tall, elegant, cunning, trained in warfare from a young age, he's already stood up to the Persians. He's the emperor's favorite commander. The two men are different, but they understand each other. Justinian plans, Belisarius strikes. In 533, a target is chosen: the Vandal Kingdom in North Africa, a wealthy strategic pirate kingdom built on the ruins of the Roman province of Africa for a century. Their king, Gelimer, rules from Carthage, but is weakened by recent civil war. Justinian sees an opportunity. Officially, the Byzantine intervention aims to restore order and reinstate the previous king, Hilderic, a more compliant Christian, deposed by Gelimer. In reality, it's the start of a long war of reconquest, and Africa is just the first step. Summer 533. Winds blow from the Aegean Sea, swelling the sails of a colossal fleet. 500 ships, 16,000 men. A logistical operation unprecedented since Caesar's great campaigns. Justinian has emptied the coffers. The stakes are high. At its head, Belisarius, barely 30 years old, yet already crowned with victories in the east. The target, Carthage, capital of the Vandal kingdom. On the surface, an easy mark. The Vandals have lost their discipline. Their king, Gelimer, is more preoccupied with family disputes than the Byzantine threat. But the terrain is treacherous: desert, scorching heat, fragile logistics, and above all, an army far from its bases. The gamble pays off. At Ad-Decimum, near Carthage, Belisarius sets a classic but effective trap. Gelimer falls for it. His chain of command collapses, his brother killed before his eyes. He breaks, mentally. 3 months later, the Byzantines retake Carthage, then crush the final resistance at Tricamaron. Africa is reconquered in less than a year, but Justinian doesn't stop there. He turns his attention to the main objective, Italy. The Ostrogoths, who have ruled there since the fall of Rome, are tearing themselves apart. Their king, Theodahad, lacks both charisma and authority. In June 535, hostilities begin in the east. General Mundus, a brutal but effective veteran, captures Salona in Dalmatia. Meanwhile, Belisarius continues his methodical advance southward. On December 31st, he seizes Syracuse with little resistance. All of Sicily falls into his hands. Italy is caught in a pincer movement. Theodahad panics. He's deposed and replaced by Vitiges, a more determined soldier. Despite this, Belisarius advances toward Naples. The city resists, but not for long. On December 9th, 536 AD, he enters Rome. He is welcomed as a liberator. After 60 years of foreign occupation, Rome becomes Roman again, but the war is not over yet. Vitiges leaves Ravenna, his capital, and marches toward Rome. His goal is clear: to retake the city before the Romans can establish themselves too firmly. Starting in March 537, the siege begins. The Goths surround Rome. Food runs short, water too. The Romans falter, but Belisarius holds firm. Lightning sorties, skirmishes, sabotage. He wears down the enemy without letting himself be trapped. In March 538, Vitiges gives up. Famine drives him away. Once again, Belisarius has prevailed. The following autumn, he goes on the offensive. He besieges Urbino, a strategic stronghold in the northeast, and captures it. But the war changes its face. The Ostrogoths become more aggressive, more violent. In March 539, the clash is brutal. Milan, Italy's second city, rebels against the Goths and calls for help. Belisarius cannot intervene. Too far, too few men. The Gothic general Uriah, Vitiges' cousin, shows no mercy. He besieges the city for 9 months. Then he enters. Milan is razed. The men are massacred. The women are sold as slaves to the Burgundians. For Justinian, it's a political disaster. He sends reinforcements, tries to maintain control, but the momentum is already broken. Italy is a field of ruins, divided between Goths and Romans. The war becomes a slow hemorrhage. Vitiges entrenches himself in Ravenna, his northern capital. The city is fortified, hard to reach, protected by marshes and the sea. But Belisarius keeps up the pressure. With the arrival of reinforcements from the east, he begins the siege of Ravenna. Slowly, methodically, he isolates the city. Vitiges, surrounded, desperately seeks allies. He sends ambassadors to the Franks, promising riches and territories if they attack the Byzantines. He also attempts a riskier move, secret negotiations with Belisarius himself, hoping to turn him against Justinian. The Franks react. Led by Theudebert I, they cross the Alps with a massive army, 100,000 men according to some sources, likely exaggerated. They devastate the Po Valley, plundering indiscriminately, but aid neither the Goths nor the Byzantines. Soon, famine and disease force them to retreat. In May 540, Ravenna surrenders. Vitiges, convinced that Belisarius will betray Justinian to seize power, agrees to hand over the city. The desperate Ostrogoths even offer him the royal crown. Belisarius pretends to accept, then delivers the city intact to Constantinople. Vitiges is captured and sent to Constantinople, where he dies a few years later. But this victory also marks a turning point. Justinian, wary, recalls Belisarius to Constantinople. Italy is left without effective leadership. Troops are scattered, supplies disorganized, and in 541, the Ostrogoths regroup. A new leader emerges, Totila. Charismatic, young, and bold, he promises peace and justice. He begins to win the hearts of Italians, exhausted by 6 years of war. And as if sent by the gods, the plague arrives. Originating in Egypt, it reaches Constantinople in 542, killing thousands daily. Corpses pile up in the streets, and the administration collapses. Even Justinian falls ill, narrowly escaping death. The empire is paralyzed, reinforcements cease, and military campaigns grind to a halt. It's the perfect opportunity. Totila, leading a small but disciplined army, launches his counter-offensive. He retakes northern Italy, and, in March 543, he besieges Naples. The city falls after a heroic defense. But Totila surprises. He spares the inhabitants, tends to the prisoners, and frees those who promise not to take up arms again. His reputation grows. Where the Byzantines often plundered, he shows clemency. During the summer, he advances south. The Goths reclaim Campania. Totila avoids prolonged sieges. He favors swift raids, ambushes, and mobile guerrilla tactics. He recruits locally, especially among peasants crushed by taxes. He also uses propaganda. The Byzantines are no longer liberators but fiscal oppressors. And it works. Cities surrender without a fight. In the winter of 542, the imperial army collapses into chaos. The Byzantine generals act in disarray. Totila avoids direct confrontations, letting them exhaust themselves. He controls the pace. In early 543, he pushes further. Calabria, Lucania, Reggio, one by one, the fortresses fall. He clears the south of nearly all imperial presence. Then he moves toward Latium. He isolates Rome without yet attacking it. He distributes confiscated lands, reduces taxes, and attracts ruined peasants. He doesn't just win militarily, he builds a new power. By autumn 543, the Byzantine Empire is in crisis. The troops are overwhelmed, underpaid, and uncoordinated. Justinian hesitates to recall Belisarius. The east is threatened by the Persians. Meanwhile, Totila asserts himself. He mints his own currency and appoints governors. Justinian, aware that the situation in Italy is slipping from his grasp, finally recalls Belisarius. But this time, he provides neither sufficient troops nor substantial resources. The general lands with a handful of weary soldiers, too few to confront Totila head-on. He tries to defend Rome nonetheless, but can only hastily fortify it. Totila, meanwhile, encircles the city. The siege begins. It lasts over a year. This time, he is patient. He blocks the roads, cuts off supplies. Hunger and fear empty the city. The inhabitants flee or die. Imperial reinforcements do not arrive. Belisarius is forced to abandon the city. On December 17th, 546, the Goths retake Rome. Totila finds not the former capital but a ghostly city. The population has deserted it, leaving only 500 civilians within the walls. Rome is sacked, but not razed. Totila changes his mind. He spares the monuments, respects the churches. Then he empties the city and leaves a garrison. But against all odds, 6 months later, Belisarius retakes Rome. With a small detachment, he takes advantage of a moment of Gothic laxity, enters the city without major fighting, and immediately strengthens the walls. He repairs the gates, the towers, and stations garrisons. Rome returns once more to Roman control, but the reality is bitter. The empire sends neither reinforcements, nor gold, nor supplies. His position remains precarious. Totila, caught off guard, does not react immediately. He prefers to secure the rest of the territory. For 2 years, he consolidates his conquests, pacifies central Italy, and strengthens his alliances. The Byzantines, meanwhile, are bogged down. Justinian is preoccupied with the war against the Persians and the aftermath of the plague. Belisarius, isolated, is eventually recalled to Constantinople for a second time. Summer 549, Totila launches his third siege of Rome. This time, the city is better fortified but lacks effective leadership. No Belisarius to organize its defense. The troops on the ground cannot hold. Rome falls once again into the hands of the Goths. Totila enters the city mercilessly. He expels its population, destroys part of the fortifications, and vows never to let it fall back into Roman hands. In the aftermath, he launches an expedition to Sicily. The island, long a Byzantine stronghold, falls city by city. Totila establishes his garrisons there, secures the ports, and cuts off the empire's maritime routes. By 550, the Ostrogoths control nearly all of Italy again. Corsica and Sardinia, which had remained loyal to the empire, fall to Gothic garrisons. Totila aims to deprive the Byzantines of all their Mediterranean bases. Italy seems definitively lost, but in Constantinople, Justinian plays his final card. He appoints an eunuch, a meticulous and feared strategist, Narses. Over 70 years old, he lacks Belisarius' charisma, but he has what Belisarius never had: full authority, unlimited resources, and the emperor's total support. In 552, Narses launches a major offensive. He advances from Illyria, crosses the Julian Alps with a multinational army: Byzantines, Heruli, Lombards, and even Huns. His goal: to trap Totila in a pincer movement and crush the Goths once and for all. That same year, while attention is focused on Italy, Justinian also sends troops to Spain. A surprise operation. The Byzantines seize a strategic portion of the southern peninsula around Cartagena and Malaga. The imperial dream is reborn on multiple fronts. But everything hinges on Italy. In July 552, at the Battle of Taginae in Umbria, Totila faces Narses. Narses adopts an innovative strategy. He positions his archers on the flanks and lures the Gothic heavy cavalry into a central zone where it is decimated by crossfire. Totila is killed in battle. The leaderless Ostrogoths collapse. The road to Rome is open. The Byzantines retake it without major resistance. For the last time in history, Rome returns to the fold of the Roman Empire. In 553, Narses continues his march north. The last Gothic strongholds fall one by one. After Tyre's death at Mons Lactarius, the remaining Ostrogoth leaders surrender or flee. The Ostrogothic kingdom ceases to exist. An entire civilization is swept away by 2 decades of war. In 554, Justinian issues the Pragmatic Sanction, a decree that officially annexes Italy to the Byzantine Empire. Imperial administration is restored, Byzantine laws are enforced, and Narses becomes the governor of the peninsula. But the war is not entirely over. A final threat emerges. The Franks, taking advantage of the chaos, decide to invade the peninsula. 2 kings, Luthris and Bouchla, cross the Alps with a massive army composed of Franks and Alemanni. Their goal is clear: to seize the rich northern Italian plain, weakened by 20 years of conflict. In 554, they devastated Liguria, seized several cities, and ravaged Tuscany. Their advance was brutal, uncontrollable. The Franks did not seek to administer. They plundered, burned, massacred. Even the Ostrogoths, in their downfall, had preserved a certain structure. The Franks, on the other hand, left nothing but emptiness behind them. In the autumn of 554, near Casilinum, on the banks of the Volturno River, the army of Boutilinus faced the Byzantine forces commanded by General Narses. The battle ended in a decisive Byzantine victory and the death of Boutilinus. With this victory, the war in Italy comes to an end for good. 21 years after Belisarius' landing in Sicily, the Byzantine Empire controls the entire peninsula, along with parts of Spain. The Renovatio Imperii, the mad dream of restoring the Roman Empire to its former glory, seems accomplished. But this conquest has a bitter taste. The population has plummeted, the economy is ruined, and Italy, once the jewel of the Roman Empire, is now a battered province, propped up by foreign garrisons. 20 years of sieges, looting, famine, and epidemics have emptied the cities, devastated the countryside, and destroyed roads, aqueducts, and ports. The great imperial cities are reduced to ruins populated by orphans and refugees. Rome, the eternal city, has become a shadow, without a senate, without nobility, without splendor. The pre-war Italian population is estimated to have been between 6 and 10 million people. By the end of the conflict, some estimates suggest a population decline of 40 to 60%. It is a true catastrophe. Belisarius himself is cast back into obscurity. Never rewarded commensurate with his victories, He will die in anonymity a few years later. Narses, a strict but competent governor, maintains order in Italy for another decade. As for Justinian, he dies in 565, convinced he has saved the empire. But in reality, his campaigns have drained the imperial treasury, weakened the eastern provinces, and paved the way for new threats. In 568, just 12 years after the war's end, a new invasion strikes Italy, the Lombards. They settle for good. This time, there will be no reconquest. The city of Rome remains under Byzantine control until 756, protected by its walls, its bishops, and a handful of garrisons. The Gothic War marks the end of an era. It is the last breath of the old Roman dream that of a world united around Rome, its laws, and its imperial order. After it, Italy will not be unified again for over a millennium.
This is where one of the most brutal and lesser-known chapters of Roman history comes to an end. The war that saw the Eastern Empire reconquer Rome, only to lose it again. A pivotal moment caught between imperial glory and inevitable decline. If you've learned something or simply enjoyed this dive into the past, consider leaving a like. That small gesture greatly helps me boost my video's visibility and continue creating historical content. And let me know in the comments, in your opinion, did Justinian save the Roman Empire or merely delay the inevitable? See you soon for a new video. And don't forget, history never dies as long as we keep telling its